morning, everybody. It's Steve Falconator. Welcome to the Circle of Brilliance. Today we continue our trip down the MasterStream. Last time around, we just talked about each of the 5 phases and some of the goals associated with them and had a nice little starting point discussion. Today, I'd like to get into a bit more of the specific details about what happens during each phase. So with that, let's go all the way back to phase 1. Again, phase 1 was a connecting phase, and I gave you guys a little assignment at the end of the last class. I said, I want you to think about the most recent interaction you had with somebody, whether it was a sales interaction or you were providing services of one sort. And I asked you to kind of do a little assessment and go, to what degree did you do what the MasterStream is indicating should best be done as far as tension management goes? And so at the beginning of whatever your discussion was or your interaction was, no doubt your companion, if you will, entered the MasterStream, that's in air quotes, entered the MasterStream with a certain level of productive tension, even though we show here that at the start of it, tension should be up to power, stress, even stress. That's not necessarily the case. It could be in power if you've known them for a good long while. You could even enter in power apathy and just be best buddies. So you could enter the MasterStream at any level of tension. Maybe they're even way, way up in stress. Regardless of wherever they enter the MasterStream, our goal is to make sure that we do whatever is necessary during that phase 1 to get their level of tension to this threshold of delegation, down here between power apathy and apathy. If they're already there because you're totally mellow with one another, well, fine. But if that's not the case, there's going to be some work that needs to be done to allow tension to come down. So I'll let you guys kind of chime in. What sorts of things did we recommend people do, or what do you naturally do in your discussions with a client or a prospective client to lower their level of tension? Small talk. So whatever it is, avoid the big 3 subject categories of polite conversation, and in all likelihood, tension's going to go down just because you're sharing with one another and having that exchange. What other sorts of things might you be able to do to lower tension in phase 1?
Sit down, become comfortable, have a drink.
Relax a little bit. As I've shared with you guys, I did extensive business in the Netherlands. And one of the things that I found very different about business in the Netherlands, in fact, Joseph is on the call. He may not know this, but one of the things that very much surprised me is that in the Netherlands, when you go to an office building of any size, or you're going to a company of any real substance, the person you're there to see has a tendency to meet you in the lobby. And so rather than them just sending you up to their office, no, they have a tendency to meet you in the lobby. And more often than not, in the lobby or close to just past security or whatever, there was a little bit of a cafe. And there was, just a little coffee and tea, and might have been some tiny little cookie sort of a thing to have. But it was kind of part of the way that business culture operated there, was that before you got down to business, you were going to share a little cup of coffee or whatever. And I thought the first time I encountered that, I thought, this is just bizarre, because I promise you that never happens in the US. Once you get up to the office, then find some administrative assistant type might walk in and go like, can I get you some, water? Would you like a coffee or whatever? But not having a separate space that's really just dedicated to connecting at a little bit more of that personal, social sort of level. So Joseph, unmute yourself and tell me if that is in fact the case around the Netherlands, or did I just go to a strange company at 5?
I thought that was completely normal, but you surprised me.
You will be sorely disappointed if you come to the US to do business. So, yeah. No, it's just not done.
We're a trade nation, so we have that figured out.
Well, yeah, it's true. I mean, I learned that very early on in my work in the Netherlands, is that, as you know, I consider the Netherlands to be a rather magical sort of place, but it's not known for its natural resources.
We have lots of water.
A lot of water.
That natural resource?
If you need water, we got water. But But so from the very beginning, they were a culture, a society, a country of traders. And so they learned how to facilitate the movement of goods from one place on the planet to another. And if you really go there and go on the business tour of the Netherlands, the things you learn are remarkable. Like you learn about reverse auctions and how the flower markets and soft fruits and all that all come through one airport, and early in the morning, the place is a zoo. But even before the sun comes up, that's all done. People have gone on for the rest of their day. So it's a fascinating place. Anywho, as Joseph just said, there when you are in the business of facilitating trade, maybe that brings out a little bit more on the social skills sort of thing early on in the discussion. Yeah. Okay, so lots of things will help in this phase one. Welcome everybody. Let me make sure I've unmuted everyone. So you can all, yeah, you're all free to talk if you feel so inclined. All right, so I would like to think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that all of you on the call, and certainly the vast majority of people in the human development industry, are naturally good at connecting with people. They're naturally good at lowering this relationship tension to make everybody feel comfy and all that good sort of stuff that's going on. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You guys want to kind of own that? Yeah. Now, if I said that's all great, but why is it being done? Now I want to talk a little bit more about the deep strategy behind this. It has to do with the relationship between tension and honesty. Who might want to put forth the relationship between tension and honesty? As tension goes what direction, honesty goes what direction?
As tension goes down, honesty goes up.
As tension goes down, honesty goes up. Now, when I'm talking about honesty, I'm talking about natural, spontaneous kind of honesty. I'm not suggesting that people who aren't at a particular place on the change grid are going to deliberately lie to you. It's more about how able they are to readily access and deliver the truth. And so when you think about someone who's up in stress or power stress, even the highest points of power stress, what happens to their ability to access, to recognize, to understand, and to share absolute, truthful, factual, concrete sorts of data? Is it enhanced or compromised if tension is high?
It's compromised, probably quite distorted.
Exactly. And that's why, obviously we can apply this to any sort of thing, but I can tell you as someone who kind of views all of life through this tension management lens, when I look at people having political discussions or healthcare discussions or whatever, I can't not look at that through the tension filter. Because I kind of go like, look, anybody who's up in stress is going to distort reality. I don't care what the context is. I don't even care what the content is. If you're up in stress, I promise you, you're distorting reality. Reality for you is a very distorted sort of thing. And so the things that you're accepting as factual, the things that you're presenting as factual might be factual, but there is just as strong a chance, if not an even greater chance, that it's distorted in some way. And so that's why I have a tendency to immediately discount anything that someone who's upset has to say. Do you guys agree with that? Disagree with that? Do you?
Yep, agree.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm just hearing all kinds of noise. I'm not hearing anything that merits my serious consideration. Now,
Hey,
calm down a little bit. Yep, go ahead.
Could you put it through trust instead of honesty, since you're not suggesting we lie, but we might distort it? In other words, as the tension goes down, the trust goes up. So from the receiver's point of view.
Yeah, I would say that as tension goes down, a lot of things improve. So honesty improves, trust certainly improves. In fact, it might be because trust went up that honesty goes up. But it's also about the ability to access factual information. And this, in that case, it's not so much a deliberate conscious thing. Like the person who's up in stress oftentimes I truly believe that even though they're presenting a distorted reality, it is not their intention to lie. In fact, I'll give you guys a gifted students question. Where on the change grid do you have to be to really lie and lie well?
You have to be in power.
You have to be in power. Why do you have to be in power if you're going to be a good liar?
Because you're in control. You know exactly what you're doing. You understand your impact, and there's a conscious intentionality about it.
Right. And you think about what is a lie. It really is either a mistruth or it's a very clever packaging of information to kind of illustrate a point that isn't really true to be illustrating. So I remember I was always a fan of Judge Judy. Kathy, I'm getting some feedback from your line. Let me just, yeah, there, thank you so much. Feel free to unmute though anytime you want to say anything. But how many of you were fans of Judge Judy? Because one of the things that Judge Judy said is that if you're going to be a liar, you have to have a really good memory, because she knew if she could throw you off your game, move you up grid or down grid, our lingo, not hers, you were going to get sloppy in your recollections. And now your lie was going to get exposed. So if you really want to live a life or hold a lie and keep it consistent and believable over a long period of time, you'd better have a really good memory. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart. You're going to be exposed.
Can I ask a quick question?
Always feel free.
How do you feel about these police interrogations where they put a suspect under stress and about the results that they get from that?
Well, in fact, let's look about both those things that happen, because that's good cop, bad cop. That's what we call it. I don't know what it's if it is the same strategy elsewhere, but one of the two police officers has as their primary goal, raise your level of tension to the point that you're just going to blurt out something from a reactive state. That's bad cop. And then good cop is supposed to lower your level of tension all the way down to the point that you feel so comfortable, so protected, so safe that you're going to disclose things that you otherwise might not have disclosed. So good cop moves you down grid so you become sloppy, and bad cop moves you up grid so you become sloppy. The place that interrogators absolutely do not want you to be is in power, because in power you can keep your lie consistent.
Yeah. But don't you get false information or false, how do you call it, confessions?
Well, you could very well, but again, my job as an officer, if you think, is it my job to make sure that the confession is accurate, or is it my job just to get the confession? And then we'll let the court sort out whether it was good, bad, right, or wrong. So I think part of the issue is that there are different roles that are inherent in each of those different occupations. And we gave up long ago believing that 100% of police officers 100% of the time are completely committed to nothing but the absolute truth. So that's not really the case. There's a lot of police officers, so some are going to have their own agendas, and the vast majority, we continue to hope, are really good officers that are very well intentioned. Yeah. And so there you go. But on the news, you're more likely, like anything else, you're going to hear the stories of the officers that got out of control and did something that was overly up grid. That's what makes the news. Because anything happening down grid, who wants to watch that? And as far as the whole bunch of nothing that happens in power, nobody wants to watch that. So it's all up here is where the drama is. Up here is where it is. And so the only stories we ever really hear, not surprisingly, are the stories where some sort of drama came along. And that's always
a very small example of that is the Women's March in Phoenix on Saturday. It was so peaceful. I didn't even see any other protesters. But on the news, that's all they talked about were the other protesters, and they had footage, and it was like, wait a minute. And then when you read the news and you see the pictures, every single picture says, and a very small contingent of argued with the, you know, so it was very interesting what the news covered when it was really 99% like, really, they were here?
Yeah, right. And so that's the whole point. The news has as its job to sell advertising. And it's only going to sell advertising if there is a large and engaged audience. And that audience is only going to get bigger and more engaged if you're doing something upgrade. Upgrade corrects attention. It's just the way it's got nothing to do with, again, the context of whatever it's going on. It's like we want to know what went wrong. What went wrong? That's what they want done. So that's just tension management in action. So we should all be able to look at it and kind of go like, well, yeah, that makes good sense. There's no story down grid. There's no story mid grid that anybody really wants to hear. The story is here. Yeah.
Does someone need to be a little more out grid or in grid to be a liar? I mean, I can't imagine that happening at the center.
Well, I agree. I think the person who's probably at the center of the change grid is the best position to see the lies. Because again, they're detached from it. So they're in that very observant kind of role. What did I just do to my poor little illustration here? You know, they're here in the middle. They can see everything that's going on around them. So I think that the further in grid you go, the more your lies are like gossipy kinds of things. Where the further out grid you go, the more your lies are going to be calculated towards a very specific kind of outcome. You know, people in the out grid danger zone want to control the world. So these are where megalomaniacs and other variations of craziness lives. Okay, so yeah, so but again, could someone in the exact center of the grid put forth a lie? Well, sometimes I wonder if they couldn't be the best storytellers. You know, if you really want to construct, now I guess I'm a little bit further down grid where true creativity lives, but someone who can write a good work of fiction, aren't they really just exceptional storytellers? And isn't storytelling another name for lying? You know, they're making stuff up. But they're not presenting it as being the truth. But while you're reading that novel or whatever, you're kind of accepting it as a possible truth or truthful enough that you feel like the story is impacting you in whatever ways.
Well, the intention matters when it's a story.
Very much.
If the intention is to get them to look both ways before they cross the street when you tell the story, that's very different if the intention is to deceive.
And it's also about the permission you're granting the person. We were on a cruise ship as a lecturer, and for whatever reason, we got to be very friendly with the musician, the magician that was on board. And one of the discussions that we had was, what's the difference between what a magician does and what someone who's a con artist actually does? And the differences they put forth was that when you're a magician, the audience has granted you permission to try to deceive them. And they're hoping, of course, as an audience member, they can figure out how you did it because they know you don't have superpowers. So, that was the whole idea about that. In the world of being a magician, the audience is in on the dynamic and is granting you not even just permission, but an expectation that the audience wants you to attempt, at the very least, to deceive them.
So is it fair to say that lying doesn't live anywhere on the change grid, but the expression or the demonstration or the behavior from that lying is very different in different parts of the
world? And see, I guess I would want to know, when I think about lying, I think of a conscious choice that someone is making to construct a story or share false data. I don't know that someone that far up grid is lying as much as they're just plain mistaken.
And they're not resourceful, so they're saying whatever.
They're accepting whatever has been thrown at them and regurgitating it as fact.
Yeah, I think to use the word lie, you're talking about an intentional deception, or you're talking about a deception from an intention that's totally for your own good, and you don't care about someone else's harm, which I think the magician isn't doing that. And I think their reason is correct. We come to be deceived. We don't want them to say, here is an egg, and then they put it down.
Well,
they
right.
haven't
In
lied,
fact,
but we
that's
want our
what he
money
said.
back.
That's what he said. He says, if I can't successfully deceive an audience the vast majority of time, they're going to decide that I suck as a
They're
magician.
not going to come back. Yeah.
Right. They're going to
I already
complain.
knew
So
that was an egg. Thank you.
right, exactly, exactly. And that's why we have a tendency to talk more about spontaneous honesty, just this unrestrained, what am I going to say, willingness to deliver complete and candid information. So nothing being held back. Well, that has a tendency to happen downgrid more so than upgrade. I mean, upgrade, I'll just talk and talk and talk, but is it really accurate, open, honest, candid sharing? Because I think that happens down in power apathy and even down a little bit in apathy. All right, so again, I think a wonderful kind of discussion, but a lot of the qualities we are looking for to be present in a relationship where we're trying to serve as a human development professional, we need that environment or that relationship to be one where people can be open, honest, candid. They don't feel like they have to carefully package whatever the story is. They don't have to apologize for whatever they're thinking or feeling. They don't obviously need to be making stuff up. We just need them to feel comfortable enough that they know that we will honor what they're saying. We will hold it in great esteem. We will be trustworthy and all those good sorts of qualities. But that doesn't happen unless someone's down here.
Hey, T,
Yep.
would you say that someone who's down there is experiencing a degree of safety?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you think about when you're hanging around with your closest friends, family members, most trusted allies, this is where you tend to be hanging out. I mean, obviously, if you're down in apathy, people are dozing off on each other. But, down in power apathy, everyone's relaxed and mellow and, things are going on. And look why. Your perceived ability in whatever those situations are is quite high and the perceived challenge is quite low. And so, you got nothing to really be guarded about. So, yeah. All right. Do we all agree with this? Okay, so you see why it's so important to lower that tension. What if I only stop halfway down and I only lower that tension down to power? How does being in
They're
power?
going to take control and try to question you.
That's right. So people that are in power are in an information gathering mode, not an information providing mode. And so they're going to be asking a whole bunch of questions. When it comes to honesty or lying or whatever, I would like to just say that I think the people that are in power are going to be a little bit more thoughtful and prudent, perhaps hold a few things closer to the vest. I mean, a good poker player has got to be in power. Otherwise, they're going to have tells. They're going to reveal information, or they're going to say stupid things or do stupid things. This will not bode well for their for them winning the pot. So that's what I think. So are they necessarily lying? When you go up in a court case and they swear you in, they tell you to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I think that that's speaking a little bit to what people in power do. They may tell the truth, but is it selective? So is it the whole truth? Hopefully they're not lying, so they're not telling you anything that isn't the truth, but crimes of omission can sometimes be as problematic, if not more problematic, than crimes of commission. Yep.
So in a sales situation, T, when you are talking to people, like I'm working with these startups in healthcare, and I often hear from the entrepreneurs that, I've been talking to different health systems about my product and what I'm trying to solve, but they never write the check. Like they never seem to be interested in going to the next step. But when we go through, like, what are they doing? They're basically pitching the product itself. So they're not even on the same level of the experience that the health system is experiencing.
Right. And so where are they on the change grid, and versus where are you as the person who's advising them, or in the case if they're making a pitch for funding or something like that, there's a big disconnect because where are you versus where are they? And
Right.
then take it to the next step. Where are you? Where's your head in terms of content and context, and where is their head as far as content and context? I mean, I think you're right. They're busy trying to pitch you on their product, and you're not sold on them as a person yet.
So you need to talk about like the benefits, and that might bring them down to that white, you know, down to think about, okay, yeah, now I can connect with this. I resonate with this, and not
Yeah.
the product. Because I would say like people aren't buying products, right? They're buying what the product claims to solve for them. That's what
Right.
the church is saying.
Yeah. Yep. In fact, we'll get to this in greater detail in phase 3, but I'm reminded, and all of you on the call that are sales trainers probably have your own version of this, but when you're doing sales training and you're trying to get into the subject of features, benefits, and advantages, one of the very common things you say to an audience is, how many of you own an electric drill? And a lot of hands go up, and you say, and of those of you who bought an electric drill, did you want an electric drill? And they invariably say yes. The answer is no. What did they want?
Holes.
They wanted a hole. So, and there are lots of ways to create that hole. I mean, you could have punched a hole in the wall. You could have used any number of other tools to do that. So why it was a drill the way you went? Now you're talking about more the benefits of a drill compared to other ways, and some of those become advantages. So if it was about speed, if it was about repeatability, if it was about being able to control the actual dimensions of something, that's fine. And then, you know, modern drills do a heck of a lot more than simply drill a hole. So, I mean, I probably use mine more for being a screwdriver than I use it for drilling a hole. So, yeah. So that's the whole thing. So that's what you're getting to, Brian, is what are we really looking for? Nobody wants the injection. I don't know about you, but next Tuesday I go for my third shot, and I got to tell you, I don't want the shot. What do I want?
Right. Yeah, the safety, the benefits of it, what the
Yeah,
shot is providing.
right. In less than 2 weeks, I'm getting on a cruise ship. Okay, and I say this as a joke, but we all know this. A cruise ship is a petri dish on its best day.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care if they'd give me a fourth shot, I'd take it before I got aboard the thing. so there you go. All right. So again, we'll talk about that mostly when we get to phase 3, talk about presenting the solution and what should you present and what should you hold back, because we don't want the tension to go down. But just to kind of close off phase 1, I want you guys to think about the interactions you have with your clients and your prospective customers, et cetera. Again, I believe that all of you, maybe there might be the one rare exception here or there, but you're probably really good at lowering the level of tension. The question becomes, are you lowering it far enough so that you really do have that safe environment for open disclosure where people are going to be candid and honest and, accurate and whatever. Yeah. How many of you just want to jump and go like, I've got no problem with phase 1. I do it really well. Thank you so much. Move on, T. All right. So now, before we move on to, I want to know this, and maybe it doesn't apply to you personally, but maybe you've observed this in others. How many people in our line of work are exceptional at lowering tension in phase 1, but don't know when to stop? And so they end up, instead of creating a client, they create a friend.
Endless
Or
coffees.
endless coffees that never translates into any kind of a real relation, business billable kind of a relationship. Or they become or rather you would become, if you were the human development professional behaving in this manner, you would become the person that the client thinks twice about setting an appointment with, because it takes you forever to get around to the real business at hand. So they feel like they're paying you a lot of money for socializing. And that can become a real problem as well. I would suggest to you that people who are so good at phase 1, but so bad at phase 2, probably struggle to build a practice. So I imagine they don't stay around for very long. Yeah.
Mhm.
Or they're the ones who give away the services. I mean, how many of you know coaches and consultants who, give away the services, literally give away the services just because they want to have that social kind of contact with somebody. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So let's say you've done a decent job in phase one, and now you got this person, they're down in Power Apathy, they're ready, willing, and able to share whatever it is that needs to be shared. You now need to move in to this analyzing phase. So as we said last time around, the goal of the analyzing phase is twofold: to get whatever information you need so that you understand their situation, so that you can actually, start pointing them in the right direction, or at least put in place some groundwork for them to do some self-exploration. But you got to know enough about what's really going on to be able to hope to move on to the next phase. So that's part of it. You got to get the information you need. But the other thing is that we'd like to get that information in such a way that the level of tension goes up. Now, what kind of tension are we talking about now? Last time around here, phase one, this was about relationship tension. Lower that all the way down and keep it low. What kind of tension are we working with now?
Task.
This is the task tension. This is the tension that people have about whatever the issue in front of them happens to be. How much task tension do you want there to be? That's a gifted student's question. So all y'all unmute.
Well, you want it to be enough. For them
Enough.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, you want. It seems like you're moving from the first phase, from limbic to the cortex, and then back up to the feeling of whatever it is they're experiencing.
There you are. Exactly right. Exactly right. Kathy, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to mute. No, that the idea is to raise it, but not to the point where you're actually alienating somebody in the process, so
Yep.
that you're just gradually moving it to the point where there is a curiosity
Yes.
and an interest.
Yep, exactly right. And so we, as our little curve line here shows, we don't want to move somebody all the way up into stress. Yeah, we'd like to get right up to the edge of it. That's where the threshold as its default location tends to sit. So you want to be kind of on the edge, but I'm not trying to stress anybody out. And that's why I don't want my questioning technique to feel like an interrogation. And I don't want to just keep asking questions and asking questions after I've gotten to the point where I have the information that I need. I'm just trying to get an understanding of what's really going on. So I need to get that tension to go up to make that happen. Now, we will talk about the specifics on how to do it, but you guys already know how to do it. We raise this level of tension by asking questions.
Yeah.
Questions that follow the path of self-discovery. And those four are going to be white, green, black, and red. White, green, black, red, in that order, or you're dead. Now, there's two kinds of questions I do not ask when I am trying to do a good job in phase two. I don't ask yellow questions and I don't ask blue questions. So let's quickly review what these questions are based on these color bands. So white questions are questions that are all about what? Anybody want to unmute and tell me what are white questions all about?
The facts.
The facts, cold,
Yeah.
clean, pure, hard facts. Yeah, and so this is current situation sort of stuff. If you don't care about the colors, it's just current situation. After I've asked a bit about the current situation, I want to move up to what's the green all about?
Desired situation.
What's the desired situation? What do they want? What do they want? And now you can leave that as open as you want. But if you're dealing with someone who already has a functioning understanding of tension management, we want to add an element of detail to that. So the element of detail has to do with those four aspects of control. So anytime someone is considering making a change, they really benefit from looking at that situation from four different vantage points. Do you guys remember what those four vantage points are? Anybody want to throw out one or more?
Yeah, it's
Feasibility.
what do I want? What don't I want?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the other two, but
Yeah.
I find this really useful. What do I want?
Yeah.
What don't I want?
Yep. So we're just going to add two words to what you've said. What do we want to gain?
To gain,
What do we
right.
not want to
Not to
gain?
gain.
And then what do we
wanna
want to lose? And what do we
Yeah.
not want to lose? All right, so think about those 4 questions for just a second and why we're asking for each one of those. If this was a sales situation, this is how you're building the value equation. Sooner or later, in a sales situation, you're going to get around to the matter of money. And the more value you've been able to build around the services or around the issue they want to explore, the more likely they are to want to invest in whatever it takes to get that outcome to happen. One of the biggest mistakes that coaches in particular make is that they only explore one of those 4 quadrants. They only ask, what do you hope to gain? Or what do you want as a result of making this particular change? And people are going to tell you all sorts of really, really lovely things. And most of the coaches that I've listened to in the past, in fact, forget coaches as the single group. A lot of people in sales, general behavior in sales is they focus only on asking the prospect, what do they want? And the moment the prospect says, this is what I want, then the sales rep says, well, then let me tell you how you can get it. Well, while they've made a step in the right direction, they are forgetting 3 other quadrants. One of those quadrants could add even more value to the equation. And the other 2 quadrants have to be understood. Otherwise, they're going to undermine the value. So they're going to be where the deal breakers live. So if instead of me saying, what do you hope to gain? I also said, well, and what do you hope to lose? I mean, it's great that you want to have this and experience that and add this. What do you hope to get rid of? What do you want to never experience again? What's the flip side of it? And it's not just giving you a different way of phrasing the same things they said for what they want to add. It could be totally different things. What do I not want to gain? What do I not want to gain? I'm sorry, yeah, scratch what I just said. Save it for 2 minutes. What do I hope to lose? What do I hope to lose? Now, those who have a background in neurolinguistic programming know that depending on how someone has been conditioned to use their cognitive skills, they may find telling you about what they want to gain very easy and what they want to lose very difficult. And others might find telling you what they want to gain very difficult and what they want to lose very easy. It really depends on how you've been looking at the situation around you. So for example, if someone were to ask me, T, why do you work out? And I'm going to say, because I want to lose weight. Now, and someone might say, oh, so you'd like to be healthier. It's kind of like, I didn't say that. Okay. Did I use those words? Did I say that? No. So, you want to have a healthy, more vibrant lifestyle. Do I? Because I think what I just said is I want to lose weight. So can you guys hear that there's a difference there? And it's important from the neurolinguistic programming insights at the very least, that we honor how people structure whatever it is they happen to say. Do you guys agree with this? Disagree with this?
I think you're better positioned to actually solve a problem with them.
Right.
Or at least, when you come from their perspective and not your own.
Yeah. And for me, once I learned this, years and years and years ago. I actually find it rather offensive when people want to impose their value system onto my life. And so I don't care how much they've read or whatever that says that framing everything in a positive way is better. No doubt that was written by someone who frames things in a positive way. So I'm perfectly happy the way that I am. And so honor me, respect me, and work with me the way that I am. And we'll go from there. Now, if we do a deeper dive, and someone might say, well, what else is important to you about working out? What else do you want as a result of working out? I might say to you, well, I want to lose weight. But the other thing is that I really want to look good so that Linda is proud to have me on her arm. Now, did I say I want to lose something or I want to gain something? Right? I want to gain something.
Mhm.
And so I think that if you allow someone to actually tell their whole story and you keep probing, you're going to find out that at a certain point, they're going to start filling out the other quadrants. But the order in which they filled them out means something. So why did I say the very first thing is I want to lose weight? And by the way, the second thing is I'd like to look good for Linda. The third thing is I'm on a very low dose of blood pressure medication. I'd like to be off of my blood pressure medication. So now I just gave you another thing I'd like to lose.
Mhm.
All right.
But the greater tension sounds like if people pay attention to where their tension is, the weight.
Right. It was top of mind for me. Now, you guys as tension managers should immediately recognize that. Why was that top of mind for me? Why did I share that first? It wasn't some like accidental sort of a thing. I mean, I'm not the neuroscientist on the call, at least two of you are. And so it's got to mean something, the first thing that I share. Yeah.
Mhm. Yes, you said it right, top of mind.
It's top of mind. I don't know how it got there, but it's there. And so it's got to mean something. All right, and so this is what I'm saying to you. When you get to this green and you're a more advanced tension management practitioner, and you guys certainly should consider yourselves in that category, don't just say, and what's your goal? What's your desired outcome? Get into the detail. What do you hope to gain? What do you hope to lose? What do you not want to gain? And what do you not want to lose? Now, if you don't want to prejudice their answers or try to steer them into a particular quadrant, just say to them, I'm going to ask you 4 questions, and I'd like you to just go ahead and start talking, but ultimately we'd like to get all 4 of these answered. And say, I'm just curious, what do you hope to gain, lose, not lose? So tell me a little bit about what is it that you'd like as a result of making this change? And then see where they go. They might say, well, I'll tell you one thing for sure, I don't want to spend a whole lot of money. Well, which quadrant did they just put something in? Okay, I don't want to lose a lot of money. So, all right, fine. And again, you guys should have a little piece of scratch paper in front of you, or you could print out our little note guide on the quadrants, but you should be filling it all out. Fill it all out, see with the whole mixture, and then show it to the client and say, this is what you've just shared. This is your value equation when it comes to this particular issue that you are facing in your life. Now, I will tell you that in your role as a consultant or whatever variation of human development professional you are, if you did nothing beyond establish that great relationship, have that nice rapport, all that good trust, and then all you did was put them through that exercise, exploring whatever the issue is from those 4 different vantage points, would your client think something of great value has just happened?
No.
No.
I do. I think that's really valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just built the trust. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because if nothing else, I now know my situation better. Now, I haven't done anything to change it, but I would say to you that if I just hung out a shingle as saying, like, I'm someone who can help you get tremendous clarity around any goal you have in your life or any issue you face in your life. But that's my specialty. I'm 100% dedicated to this one little spot. I promise you I could build a career around it. So people would bring me in as that specialist just to be able to help people get tremendous clarity around what their desired outcome actually looks like and what it all contains. Because here's the thing, if you only focus on what people want to gain and what they want to lose, and you never talk about what they don't want to gain or what they don't want to lose, how many of you understand that sooner or later those things they don't want are going to come into this discussion, but they're going to come into this discussion as objections about why they won't go forward. If there is an issue about money or about the availability of time or whatever it happens to be, they don't want to gain a whole lot of workload. They don't want to lose the ability to do X, Y, Z. If I don't talk about these things now, before I get into building a solution, sooner or later, they're going to say, well, yeah, it looks like it'll give me what I want and help me get rid of what I don't want, but I don't want to put that kind of time into it. I don't want to spend that kind of money. So now what happened to your forward movement on whatever the objective happens to be,
Mhm.
right? And so I think if we want to be the professionals that we all are, we need to do a much more thorough job of that goal exploration when we get to this point of the process.
I think that's why I initially said no, because see, I get asked a lot on, and it's always, or I should say, happens quite often. So I had to create my own filter because I get asked on a lot of different projects, and I'm grateful that I'm in a position where I can do things that I want to do, not because I have to.
Yep.
But that becomes like a burden because people always coming, well, I think you can help with this and this and this and this and this. And if I say yes to everything, I won't have time, for
Right.
anything.
Yeah. And so, you don't have to obligate yourself, but the
Right.
question is, would that be viewed as being a valuable service for the client? And the
Yeah.
answer is, yeah, that's why they're
Yeah.
desperately begging you to do it.
Right.
So, right.
I got it.
And even if it never moves on to the next step, I mean, again, nothing has changed as a result. That's not fair to say. As you increase someone's awareness about something, we know lots of things are being set into motion. But as far as definitive change is occurring, we're still a ways away from that. So, yeah. Now, another interesting thing happens as you linger in green. Keep in mind that I don't want my client to linger in blue or yellow. What happens if they move into blue? And I start asking them questions. Again, blue doesn't have a whole lot of questions we would tend to ask because generally we don't view it as being a step along the path. But if I was going to conjure up a blue question, it would be sorts of things like, and are you in control of the situation? To what degree do you have control over all of these sorts of things? Even that would be a clumsy question. But I guess I'm even more concerned about the yellow questions. What would yellow questions be about? So what's yellow all about?
So that's solving problems. Yeah.
This is the solution. This is the solution. So what do you think happens? And sales representatives do this all the time. In fact, I will say to you as a preview that one of the things that we stress very heavily about phase 2 as they learn tension management is that phase 2 is going to be more about things you're currently doing that you need to stop doing than it's going to be about things that you aren't doing that you should start doing. I know that's a lot of words, but sales representatives, and I'm going to tell you therapists, counselors, whatever, are their own worst enemies when it comes to phase 2 because they continually do things that on the surface feel very noble and helpful and blah, 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 but are really destroying the person's level of productive tension, in which case, in your effort to help someone, you're actually hindering them. And so nobody wants that. If you're in the helping profession, you would hate to think you are slowing a person down. But normal behavior, observable behaviors that occur during phase 2 are just chock full of tension reducing behaviors. And so I'll give you a couple right here when it comes to yellow. Yellow is about solutions. So again, we need your level of tension to go up because just the fact that this conversation is happening is evidence that you can't fix this problem for yourself. Otherwise, why would we be talking? You would have fixed it. But what happens if I get up here and I decide to throw in a yellow question and just say, well, what sorts of things do you have in mind that you could be doing that would take care of this problem for you? Or how could you go about reaching these goals? If I'm asking you to solve your own problem and you are able to answer that question, what happens to your level of tension?
Yeah, it goes way down. They don't need you.
They don't need you. No. And so they're nowhere near up here where change is going to occur. They went like, oh yeah, well, I can do that and I can do that and I can do that. And so down, down, down I go. I'll give you a quick example of this that happened yesterday. We have a headlight on the car that's starting to go dim on us. And so we're getting a little warning message on the dashboard. And so I popped into AutoZone and I said, okay, well, we need to replace this headlight. And I said to the guy, is the color going to match the other one? Because I hate it when two things are supposed to be the same color, the same intensity, the same whatever, and they don't match. I just hate that. And so I thought like, well, if you're going to replace the one, you might as well go ahead and replace the other, so at least they match. And so he said, he goes, yeah, we do want to replace both of them. And then he says to me, these are LED light bulbs. They're $150 each, which just shook me. How many of you just went like, what? A light bulb is $150. And so I kind of was taken aback by that. And he said, well, you know, these bulbs are supposed to last for 10 years. Your car is only 5 years old. Maybe you should go to the car dealership and see if it's still covered under warranty. All right. Now, he didn't ask me what I could do to solve my own problem, but what did he just do?
He solved it.
He solved it. And so we still don't have a definitive answer, but nevertheless, my tension went down. He could have, if he had not been a noble, ethical, and I do find in our experience that AutoZone tends to be good people. He just, you know, he could just easily have said like, yep, that's what they cost. And they're definitely, you can see that one's dimmer. The other one's going to start getting dim. They're not going to match unless we change both of them. I can replace them for you right now. He could have easily had a $300 sale. And instead, he has my appreciation, which will buy them lots of business in the future, but it's not going to be a headlight with any luck at all. It's covered under the warranty because we bought this extended warranty thing. Who knows? Anyway, that's just an example of when you introduce to someone's mind that there is another solution readily available or a potential solution readily available, whether you got that by sharing it with them, telling them, oh, you know, you could look at this or you should think about this, or you asked a question about what else they might want to be doing. I might have been the one that said, well, for $150, I really should see if this thing's under warranty. Then I've still lowered my own level of tension. So can you guys can relate to what I've just shared there?
So this second phase is like you're a Sherpa along their journey, that path to self-discovery.
I am a Sherpa. I like that. Yes. Yes.
So you're not trying to solve it for them, but you're taking them on this journey. You're their support and all the way, let them experience whatever they're experiencing, because that's where you're going to get the insight.
That's right. And keep in mind that if I'm doing phase 2 from a very noble place, I don't know that I'm going to sell them anything yet at all. So I'm not walking into this discussion planning on selling them anything. I have made a very nice connection with this person, and now I'd simply like to have a conversation with them to understand what's going on. At the end of that conversation, I will be able to make the decision about whether or not I can be of service to them and whether or not I want to be of service to them, in which case I will present whatever it is I have to present. But it may also be possible that as we explore this, we discover that there isn't sufficient tension inherent in their situation to actually compel them to move forward one way or another, in which case it's all a very pleasant conversation, but my expectation has changed. Or maybe as we're having this discussion, they're giving me little indicators that are little by little telling me, okay, well, maybe they want to, this would be good for them. So let me ask another question before I make my recommendation, just to see if I can narrow that down a little bit or validate that, whatever, before I, you know, get into my solving kind of a phase. So that's the real spirit of this. I'm just trying to lead a person along their own path of self-discovery, at the end of which they should be able to realize for themselves that they are out of control. And if I do this well, they will ask me at the end of this phase 2 interaction, they will ask me, is this something I can help them with? In which case I
come to mind for me, hearing you talk about this, it's this is you know, it's titled MasterStream, but the thought that I wrote down is this is the path of continuous value generation.
Well, thank you for that. We'll use that as our subtitle moving forward. So yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, we're trying to do the best job we can of helping people make decisions that serve them well.
You just got a promotion, T. You're a value generating Sherpa.
I'm a value generating Sherpa. Gotta like that. Okay, Joseph, your
love it.
hand's up. You feel free to chime in whatever you'd like, whatever you'd like.
Yes, yes. I want to drop in the case of responsibility and moral
Yes.
responsibility. So you said when the salesperson was advising you, well, you can check the warranty.
Yep.
Actually, that might sound friendly and also give you a business in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But here's a little bit of tension with me, because I want to be a nice and a good person, also as a businessman.
Yes.
But in fact, you still didn't solve your problem. So maybe in some cases, these 300 euros would serve you more,
right,
than waiting 2 weeks or 3 weeks and run the risk of a fine. I mean,
yeah,
you understand where I'm going?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. And it's interesting that in that moment, I could just easily said, like, I don't want to go through all the hassle of going to the car dealership. But two things occurred to in my head. The biggest one was that I would hate for Linda to say, "You did what? We could have checked on the warranty." And the second thing is that on my way to and from the gym, I drive in front of both the car dealership and the AutoZone. So it's not like I'd be going out of my way, but you're absolutely right. Now, I think the other thing that was happening very nicely in this particular situation is I believe that sales representative understood that there's a difference between a transactional sale and a transformational sale.
Definitely.
So if there had been some big sales contest going on, he may very well have just closed the deal because he wanted to win the contest. But I think that AutoZone wants to win the customer. And that's a lot better. In fact, when I said, he goes, now, if you go to the car dealership and they tell you that the bulbs are not covered under warranty, he says, you feel free to check their price, but I promise you we're going to be a better price. And they'll probably charge you to install them, and we don't charge to install. So we would appreciate the business in the event you have to buy these. And I went like, you're guaranteed the business if I don't have to, if they're not covered under warranty.
Oh, but where I want to chime in is the fact that sometimes a good decision delayed. No, I mean, a bad decision delayed is worse than a good.
Right. No.
Good decision delayed is worse than a bad decision taken now.
Exactly right. No, you are absolutely exactly right. So if it had been raining and getting to be dark and the light bulb was completely burned out, I would have said, and Linda would be the one driving the car or whatever, I would have said, oh, no, just give me the bulb. Yeah. I might not have bought both of them. I might have said, look, we'll deal with the fact that they aren't the same color until we check out the warranty. But no, you got to give me this. Got to give me this. Yeah, Arizona is not the kind of state you want to be driving around at night without good headlights, because most of the state is wilderness, desert wilderness. So the desert will kill you. So you don't need anything to help them along that way. Yeah, good stuff. All right, so we're almost up for our time. So let me just give you one little preview to what we're going to be talking about next. And I do want to dwell on phase 2, because I do believe this is one of those areas where you guys, if you're making mistakes in tension management, there's a very strong possibility that they're happening during phase 2. So we talked about green and really developing out that green. Well, part of the reason why I want to do that is because I need the level of tension to jump over power. And part of that jump is going to occur because this goal development is going to make that goal so compelling, so complete, that their level of excitement around it should move their tension beyond power. And I'm going to follow this green up immediately with the black step. So what are the obstacles? What's stopping you from getting there? Which should, if you can envision this, it's the equivalent of me being up here and reaching down and pulling that green the rest of the way up. I just moved my graphic. Oh, that was very, very emphatic. But that's what it is. I don't want the person to be in power at that point in time, because I don't think they have enough information yet to be solving much of anything until, again, it's great that they know their goal, but we know this. If knowing your goal in vivid detail was all it took for you to succeed, then we'd all be in a very different place than we are. Even in the presence of complete goal development, we still may struggle and fail to reach that goal because of these obstacles. So I'm not serving them well unless I go through that obstacle identification step as well. And that's why we need to do both of these things. So it's nice to do the goal development. Yay, good for us, step in the right direction. But I got to do this, obstacle identification so that I can say, you know, there's a real world. And there are things that you're going to encounter that could make this goal achievement in all of its beauty a bit more than meets the eye. So let's spend some time exploring what those things may be, because I want them to understand.
There's a natural
Hmm?
phase or a natural transition. Is this the step that you said?
Yep, this is white, green, black, red. My natural way of getting past the blue and the yellow is, first of all, don't ask blue and yellow questions. So just stop that. Okay. And then the other thing would be, now that you stop that, then what I want you to do is to immediately move into obstacles. So, you know, you've described this gorgeous goal. We understand it now completely. So what's stopping you from getting there? And I've just moved them in, and they go like, well, because I don't have this, and I need this, and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and then that helps us to, I'll save the rest, but that helps us now to get here. And at a certain point, I promise you, they're going to say, is this something you can help me with? Or what are we going to do about this? Or what do you recommend? They're going to pull me into that presentation. And then I know they're ready to hear it. So, and that presentation, by the way, a little preview, I could deliver that presentation verbatim to a person in apathy, power, stress, or stress, and it will be heard 5 different ways. So if I want it to be heard in its most productive, beneficial light, I need to make sure that I am timing the delivery of that presentation as I want to say as beneficially, I guess, strategically as possible. And that's to do it while everything's up in power stress. Okay, are you guys finding this interesting? Yes?
Very.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So we'll pick up where we left off on Tuesday, and we'll go from there. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.